If I handed you a $150 bottle of wine with a screw cap, would you assume it was cheap? Be honest. A lot of people would, and that assumption is exactly what some of the world's best winemakers are betting against. Because a screw cap does not mean cheap wine. It means the producer chose a different closure, sometimes a smarter one, sometimes a more consistent one, sometimes the one most likely to make the bottle taste exactly the way it was supposed to taste. The Stelvin closure is not the enemy of fine wine. Bad wine is. Tiny but important distinction. For most wine drinkers, cork has the advantage of theater. There is the capsule cut, the screw turning, the pull, the pop, the smell of the cork, the little restaurant ritual where everyone pretends they know exactly what they are checking. It feels expensive. Meanwhile, screw caps got stuck with the opposite image. Grocery store wine, picnic wine, airplane wine, something you twist open because nobody brought a corkscrew. But that is consumer psychology, not wine science. The closure does not make the wine serious. The farming, the site, the cellar work, and the producer do. The closure's job is simpler and less romantic. Protect the wine. And once you frame it that way, screw caps start looking much more interesting. A Stelvin closure is the premium version of what most people casually call a screw cap. It is not just a metal lid, it is an engineered system. An aluminum shell, a threaded bottle finish, an internal liner, and a specific oxygen barrier. The name has a little packaging history nerdiness built into it. Before Stelvin became the name people recognized, the closure was known as Stelcap Vin. Stelcap for the cap system, and Vin because this version was designed for wine. In Australia, that wine-specific closure name was later shortened into Stelvin, so even the name is making the point. This was not born as a lazy convenience closure for cheap bottles. It was an attempt to engineer a better seal for wine. The point is not just convenience. The point is precision. Cork is natural. That is part of its beauty. It is also part of its problem. Natural materials vary. One cork is not exactly the same as the next cork. And if you have ever opened two bottles of the same wine from the same case and wondered why one tasted fresher, older, flatter, or just different, the closure may be part of the story. Now, cork deserves a fair defense. Cork is traditional, renewable, elegant, and still excellent in many cases. Plenty of the greatest bottles in the world are still closed with cork. This is not an anti-cork sermon, but cork has flaws. The famous one is cork-taint, usually associated with TCA, which can make wine smell like wet cardboard, damp basement, moldy newspaper, or old attic sadness. At high levels, you know instantly something is wrong. At low levels, it can be sneakier. The wine may not scream fault, it may just taste dull. Fruit disappears, aromas flatten, the bottle feels lifeless, and the winery gets blamed for a problem the closure helped create. Modern cork is much better than it used to be, but the problem has not disappeared. And cork-taint is only one piece of the closure question. The bigger issue is oxygen. Wine needs the right relationship with oxygen. Too much oxygen and you get oxidation. Browning, tired fruit, flat aromas, the feeling that the wine has aged faster than it should have. Too little oxygen and some wines can show reduction. Sulfur notes struck match, rubber, cabbage, or a kind of closed-in aroma that does not feel generous. So the question is not oxygen good or oxygen bad. The question is how much, how consistently, and for what wine. Cork allows small amounts of oxygen into the bottle, but every cork is slightly different. That variation can be part of the romance if you are feeling poetic. It can also be part of the problem if you are the winemaker trying to make thousands of bottles taste consistent. Stelvin closures reduce that variation dramatically. That is the killer feature: consistency. This is why New Zealand changed the conversation. New Zealand producers, especially in Marlborough, were making aromatic Sauvignon Blanc that depended on freshness, purity, and explosive aromatics. The whole point of the style is that snap of citrus, passion fruit, herbs, and brightness. Muted bottles were not a small annoyance. They attacked the identity of the wine. So, New Zealand moved hard toward screw caps. And today, screw caps are normal there, including at premium levels. Australia made a similar move, especially with Riesling. Clare Valley and Eden Valley Rieslings are some of the clearest arguments for screw cap in the world. High acid, aromatic, age-worthy whites where precision matters. Grosset is one of the great examples. Geoffrey Grosset helped lead the Australian movement towards screw caps for premium Riesling. These are not casual bargain wines. They are serious, collectible, age-worthy wines. Pusey Vale, Jim Barry, and other Australian Riesling producers helped make the point bottle after bottle. Screw cap was not a compromise. It was a quality control decision. And then there is Napa. Napa is one of the most image-conscious wine regions on Earth, especially for luxury Cabernet Sauvignon, which is why Plumpjack matters. Plumpjack famously challenged tradition by bottling premium Cabernet Sauvignon under screw cap as well as cork. That is not a technical footnote. That is a prestige category letting the screw cap into the room. Once that happens, the old stigma starts cracking. Now, which wines benefit most? Screw caps are especially strong for wines where freshness and aromatics are central. Sauvignon Blanc, Riesling, Gruner Veltliner, Albarino, Pinot Gris, Rosé, and many unoaked or lightly oaked whites. But they are not limited to white wine. They can work for Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Syrah, and Cabernet Sauvignon when the closure matches the intended style and aging path. That is the key phrase, matches the wine. The closure should fit the wine's style, not the consumer's nostalgia. The next misconception is aging. Can screw cap wines age? Yes, some age beautifully. Many age more slowly and retain fresher fruit longer. That is one of the reasons serious producers use them. But again, this is not a cartoon where one closure wins everything. Cork-aged bottles can develop a traditional kind of oxidative complexity that some drinkers love. They can also show more bottle variation. Stelvin offers precision, freshness, and consistency. It may preserve a wine in a way that feels slower, tighter, and cleaner. Neither is automatically better. The winemaker has to choose. If I were demonstrating this on a table, I would show 4 closures. Natural cork. Traditional, elegant, renewable, but variable. Synthetic cork. Consistent, practical, but not always ideal for long aging. Agglomerated cork. A cheaper cork product, often used for everyday wines. Stelvin. Engineered, consistent, and very low risk for cork-related taint. Then I would open 2 bottles, one with cork, one expensive bottle with a screw cap, and I would ask, which one did you assume was better before you tasted either? Because that is the real subject of this episode. Not metal versus bark, assumption versus evidence. For centuries, cork was the only serious option. Today, it is one of several. Great winemakers are no longer choosing closures purely because of tradition. They are choosing based on the wine, the grape, the style, the market, and the way they want the bottle to age. Sometimes that means cork. Sometimes that means Stelvin. The best closure is not the one that makes the best sound. It is the one that best protects the wine. Cork is romantic. Stelvin is ruthless. And sometimes, the smartest wine in the room is the one you opened with a twist.